everybody. Welcome to another edition of Weddings Done Right Radio, the how-to for the I do. I am your host, Jodi Harris, the CEO of Fun right here at Sight and Sound Events in Las Vegas, Nevada. There we go. Planning a wedding can be one of the most stressful, fun, exhilarating, and hair-pulling experiences that you will ever go through. You're checking your hair, right?
Yes, look what it's done to me.
Exactly, that's my guest. We created this radio show because there's so much information out there in the world about weddings and planning weddings, and so many people just like articles and advice. So we thought it would be nice that we bring you, the industry experts, the leaders in their field, and they can talk a little bit about, what questions you need to ask, and you guys can learn a little bit more about what they do and the topic. So remember, we're on iTunes, and we're on SoundCloud, and of course, we're on YouTube. So today, we're going to just dive right in. Is that okay?
Yeah, dive, man.
Diving right into today's topic, which is all about apps. So getting engaged is one of the most exciting events to happen to you in your life. But as you start to plan your wedding, you and your fiance may become overwhelmed by your never-ending to-do list and all the decisions that you have to make. As I mentioned, planning a wedding is super stressful. So luckily, we live in a techno world now, and there's an app for just about everything, which includes planning your wedding. You can make the experience more organized and easy to manage by downloading some great apps. My guest today is here to tell us about some of the apps you can use to make planning your wedding a lot easier. Andy Ebon. Hey, today's guest, Andy Ebon, has a rich history in the wedding industry. He spent over 25 years in the DJ industry working with over 2,000 wedding couples with his companies Music Man and Designer Music. Since the late 90s, he has worked as a wedding marketing expert, helping businesses communicate more effectively with brides and grooms as a public speaker, writer, blogger, and podcaster under his brand Wedding University. Andy is also entering his third year as a national education expert for Wedding Wire, the world leader in wedding marketing to wedding couples. Welcome. And by the way, he's also a friend of mine, and we have coffee together. Welcome, Andy Ebon. Welcome to Weddings Done Right Radio, the how-to for the I do. It's your second time here.
Nice to be here.
Nice to have you back.
Nice to be had.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're not in our usual coffee environment, but we are here with some bottled water. Cheers. There you go. And looking forward to this. Andy, you and I have been talking about this topic for quite a while. And
finally I'm here.
And I couldn't think of a better guest than you to help us with this.
See, I thought you were asking me about apps at Applebee's. I had no idea this was about wedding apps.
It's about wedding apps. And in our bio, when we were talking about it, there really is an app for just about everything. I mean, my phone, I don't know about your phone, but geez.
I go through it about once a quarter and eliminate things that I've downloaded and tried and, no longer are using them. So I try to clean it up because apps seem to grow exponentially. I think right now I have about 150, 160 on there. And I'm not using 150, 160. So...
It's funny because I did the same thing. I look at my phone and I look at a lot of the apps that I have, and I want to get rid of some of them, but I kind of do use a lot of them.
Okay.
I mean,
You need more things to do with more apps.
Exactly.
Okay.
I know. Exactly. So we're, imagine, Andy, you and I are we're wedding experts. We're industry experts, in our fields of what we do. And we obviously need apps to kind of run our life. I can only imagine how overwhelming the situation with brides can be, with trying to plan a wedding. I mean, you've obviously seen that. I mean,
I have seen it. And it's ugly. It's truly ugly. I mean, look, things are much more complex because we have access, starting with websites, to anything you want to see about any entertainment, bridal company, floral company, anything across the planet. But what's changed here in the last 10, 15 years is that people are now going to the smartphones, and probably about 75% or close to it of wedding searches for wedding professionals are done on phones or other mobile-friendly hardware other than computers, other than full-size computers. So
Wow.
it means that we have to, as wedding professionals, market ourselves so that the bride who's on her smartphone or the groom that's on his smartphone can see what we've got and find us and use our site successfully.
A lot of businesses have to be, I mean, it's very, very important nowadays to be mobile friendly, correct?
It is absolute. I think it was May, Google made the definitive move that if your website was not mobile friendly, that you would start to drop in the rankings. And the statistic is from Wedding Wire research that when people go to a website and they don't have a good experience on a mobile-friendly device, they're 85% likely not to return to that site. So you want to make sure that, looking at it from the bride's angle, you don't want to be operating in your wedding with a business that is operating in the dark ages. Mm-hmm. So it's important to just recognize that a business needs to be able to work with you as a customer on whatever platform you're reaching them on, whether it's a tablet, full-size computer. But these days, 75% are coming on the smartphone.
Wow.
And the majority of that is iPhone, but a majority is perhaps 2/3 of all smartphones. But you don't leave out the other, 1/3. Mm-hmm. You've got to have a website that adjusts to any platform of smartphone. And those businesses that are on the ball will look at their Google Analytics or other measurement devices that are looking at the traffic on their site, and they may see that they have 75, 100 different kinds of smartphones looking at their website. So it's a big deal. And I would say the buzzword is that a site should be responsive, that it should adjust to the different sizes, the different resolutions of the phones, such that the customer can search, see, not just shrink the whole site, but adjust so that things are in proper perspective and proportion for the site.
Interesting. So if you're a wedding couple out there and you're searching for your vendors and your vendor isn't a mobile friendly or you can't find it on your phone, that should be like would that mean that they're not cool, hip, or whatever?
No,
would you be weary?
No, it means they're lame.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, would you be kind of weary doing business with somebody like that?
I'll give you an example. In my world, I travel a lot. I take Southwest Airlines most of the time. They've got one of the easiest sites to navigate. And in one particular situation in the last couple of years, I had to fly a different airline, and I flew Spirit. Spirit didn't have a mobile app or a mobile-friendly website. And
wow.
So you couldn't do what I could do very easily with Southwest, which is get notifications of changes, change my flight because I was going to be late, or go to a different day. And you just looked at that like, well, this is mandatory. Where are these people? And it should be no different in the wedding business. This Google announcement was no big surprise. Things, but just by usage, as I've described, were moving in the direction of mobile-friendly, responsive websites. So if a business hasn't gotten their act together by now, shame on them.
Right.
And it is one factor, seriously, for brides and grooms to keep in mind that you want to deal with somebody that's on the ball, and not having a mobile-friendly site doesn't speak highly, and you'll find it difficult to operate. Even something simple like images are larger images on a full website on a computer are much larger in their size, which means they take a little more time to load. A responsive site, a mobile-friendly site, uses a series of smaller and smaller images, so it adjusts and puts the right image in the different phones so that it won't take a long time to load, as opposed to one that just tries to put a gallon of milk in a quart container, which takes a long time to load.
Absolutely, absolutely, and especially on your phone, everybody's in a hurry, and we're quick. We want to do.
We're an impatient lot, all of us.
We are. So, tell me the difference between what an app is and a mobile website.
Pretty good question, and the difference is subtle, unless you're thinking about it. A mobile website, you can go from site to site, and you see it on a browser like Internet Explorer or Chrome or Firefox on your smartphone, just like you have those browsers for your standard computers. But you're not sort of held captive, if you will. An app is designed by a particular business to get you within their ecosystem, if you will. So you are within a particular app for a particular business, and that makes it very easy to design it functionally so that it works for just the customers that come to that site.
And you said about what 75% of brides and grooms are.
Yeah, and you'll find some variation, but I can tell you this, that a couple of years ago now, I think I redesigned a website for a local business here called Jerry's Tuck Shop, and they, this was just in advance of things beginning to change with Google, and they had a very a much older website, and they had essentially no mobile traffic. And within 2 months of launching their new site, which was responsive, they were getting over 60% mobile-friendly traffic from smartphones. So overnight, it showed how many visitors were not using their site. They'd come look at one page and leave. So that's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to fix it if you don't have it ready already.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for you. So, would Amazon be considered a website, but yet you can have an app for it?
It's both.
Okay.
So they have, if you look at Amazon on an iPad or a larger computer screen, you're going to be using their website. But if you try to use their website on a smartphone, it's going to be dissatisfying. Now they've had a mobile app for just a couple, 3 years, and it's amazingly easy. You couldn't put nearly as many things on the small size of even the largest iPhone or Samsung device that you can on a website. So it's a complete redesign, but it's designed to work on the phones.
Kind of like Wedding Wire. And I know we're going to talk about that as one of our apps, but that's a perfect example because Wedding Wire on your computer is a whole website. But then you can get the Wedding Wire app.
Right.
And it does amazing things.
Sure.
Which we will touch base with in a second.
And not every business needs to have an app, but in the wedding industry with such a high volume of companies using using mobile formats, it's a much easier device to communicate with the bride and groom.
So not every company needs to have an app.
No,
like you just said. So
it depends on the complexity of their business, and if they have a mobile responsive website, that may be sufficient. But when you get into some of the really complex things, such as what we're going to talk about in the wedding planning genre, having an app is a better choice almost all the time.
Okay, so how do wedding planning apps and wedding consultants or wedding planner, how do they complement each other, or do they?
Well, I think that you find that every company that has some kind of directory to help you find the right business to choose for a given function of your wedding, they're all competing with each other. The wedding planner or wedding consultant is also competing for that decision in the brain of the bride or groom, and this is a tricky thing. When people hire wedding consultants or wedding planners, they should do it at the beginning of the process. It's easy to find all the businesses on the planet. It's not so easy to understand the subtleties and differences between one business and another. And I think anybody that can afford a wedding planner should strongly consider hiring one, because they know the behind-the-scenes challenges or or high points of working with different companies. So finding businesses is easy. You can still be befuddled at making the right choice for you. It's still a bit of a challenge.
And I think the apps, you're working with a planner and working with maybe you and your planner working on the same app might be kind of, great communication.
That can
no?
be helpful, and I'm going to point out a couple of those as we go along. It's not necessarily as user-friendly for all apps. They don't always have that function where multiple people can sign in, and that's one of the things you look for is, in looking at it, can myself, my fiance, my wedding planner, and perhaps anybody else join into the function of it.
Absolutely. And before we start going through some specific apps, do you have any disclaimers? Would you like to share that with our audience?
Sure.
Anything about the apps that we found?
As well as operating independently, as Jodi mentioned in the introduction, I do some work for Wedding Wire happily, and in that capacity, I know a lot about their applications, and there are other competitors that I will fail to mention because if I do mention certain competitors, they come through the door and they slap me. And
we don't want that to happen.
I prefer that not to happen on air.
I do have to say one thing in regards to one of the conferences that we go to, the Wedding MBA, that Sonny Ganguly, who is the head guy at the Wedding Wire.
He is the chief marketing officer.
He does an amazing job of just educating not only, I can only imagine what he would do with brides when he's in front of a bridal audience or wedding couples, but just as far as like educating us people in the industry, he's amazing. He's opened our eyes to so many different things. And he does seminars not only just, talking about his brand, but also he brings to attention some really cool technologies and stuff like that.
His different seminars, which get updated all the time, particularly on future technology, those are pretty exciting. And whenever you're talking about projecting into the future, not everything comes to fruition, but many things do.
Yeah, they do. So let's talk about some of the stuff that we found together. So I'll turn it over to you right now.
Well, Jodi seeded the clouds here by giving me some things to consider, and I came up with my own list, and I will give you some focus primarily on apps that are wedding specific, that were designed for wedding planning, and then I will go a little bit outside the lines. And saying at the top that the philosophy here should be, if I discuss 17 apps, please don't try to use them all. You can test as many as you want, but fewer is better. And if you can accomplish the things that you feel you need to accomplish using 2 or 3 apps, maybe 4 tops, then you're going to be in good shape. I encourage people to try demo versions or, load up more than that. But ultimately, you're going to want to shrink the number that you use to just a few. A
lot of these apps, Andy, are they pay to play kind of apps, or are all of them free?
I looked at close to 20. All but 2 were free. So that means, generally speaking, they're advertising dependent. And how much did the ones that were paid for cost? Couple of dollars, $1.99,
okay,
$2.99, okay, that kind of thing. So it's not cost prohibitive.
Okay.
But I would look at the free ones first, look at the ratings from other wedding couples who've used them, and see what they have to say. It's
very smart.
Instant feedback, and don't just look at the average rating of the lifetime of the app. Look specifically at the most recent version of it. Has it improved? Has it gotten glitchier? What's the deal?
Great advice. No, you always forget about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Sure.
Allseated.com.
Allseated.com is a pretty cool app, and even looking at it just for a short time, they make a point in their outline. And if you're looking at this after it's fully produced, which indeed you will, you'll see screenshots of the different apps that we're talking about. The description is, Allseated is a platform for team collaboration, everything in one place, instantly build floor plans, guest lists, timelines,
nice,
something that is missing in a few places, 3D, mobile, available wherever you go. It's really designed for collaboration. Now, I want to couch this way. Wedding professionals should be collaborating all the time. But you may run into a venue that, logically has their own computer assisted seating program for their venue.
So kind of like a room diagram?
Exactly. And it would be nice if every hotel and venue did things nicely, regardless of that particular thing. Timelines are important. You as the bride and groom or wedding couple need to have the same timeline as your DJ entertainer or band leader or photographer, videographer. There's nothing worse than having different people operating by different timelines. Mm-hmm. So in a program like this, you're able to collaborate, make suggestions back and forth, and finalize a timeline that everybody is comfortable with. And,
nice.
You don't want to be figuring that out the day of the wedding and reception. It's a problem. So I looked at it. I thought it was great. And they've got a demo on their site. They mention here specifically that their audience are venues, planners and caterers, brides and hosts.
Oh, great.
We've got to teach them that it shouldn't be brides and hosts. It should be wedding couples. Other than that, they seem good to me.
Great. Allseated.com. Our next one would be?
Well, I thought I'd hit Wedding Wire near the top because of its complexity in terms of number of programs and its simplicity that it wraps into one family of programs, a lot of different applications and options. You can use part of it. You can use all of it. I have a slide up on the screen that shows 5 apps from Wedding Wire. 4 of them are for wedding couples. 1 of them is for professionals. And the one that's just called Wedding Wire, if you use the app, essentially you're seeing an application version of what the front of the Wedding Wire website looks like. Mm-hmm. And it is the search function and finding venues and finding wedding professionals. And it translates incredibly well from this full screen to the small phone. I mean, gosh, phones are getting bigger too, but it's still quite a difference. So the first one where you're looking at the screen, you'll get something that says, "Let's plan your wedding."
Yep.
And you can sign in as a bride and groom, open an account, and that begins the process of receiving information. And the next screen allows a wedding, not a wedding couple, an attendee of your wedding, an invited guest, to be part of your process.
Oh, nice.
So you get those, and then one of the things that's huge, but I don't think people think about it enough going in, is there's a section called Event Details on the Go. Your wedding is not just a wedding reception. Mm-hmm. It's a rehearsal dinner. It may be a bachelorette party. Yep. It may be the wedding itself, and then the wedding reception, which may be in a different place. So you've got all these different things going on. You're able to identify where they are, put a map on it, and allow people, anytime they sort of forget that piece of paper that they got.
Oh, that's great.
You can find what's going on. So that's the overall Wedding Wire basic, if you will. It covers pretty much everything. And in looking for wedding professionals, you'll find a couple of different ways that you can find them within the Wedding Wire site. I like their app called Team, and it's kind of an interesting thing. If you look at a couple of pages that I shot, mm-hmm. you can scroll down a list of categories of wedding professionals, venues, photographies, DJ, wedding planning as a section, mm-hmm. and it goes. Gosh, there must be 30.
I've got mine right out right now. I'm looking right at it.
Right.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
As you scroll down there, a slew of choices, and if you click on one, and I use this excuse to use Las Vegas as a choice, it automatically will look up what zip code you're in based on where your phone is operating at the time. So that's really a GPS mm-hmm. factor. You can put in something different if you're on a trip to Vancouver and looking at something in Cleveland, or if you live in Cleveland and you're looking for a professional in Las Vegas or Miami. And I punched in and I found Sight and Sound events right near the top, and other people that I know, and you'll notice that they have the review stars, all the average of the star rating of up to 5 stars. It also tells you in miles how close you are to where that wedding professional is. I like to keep things simple. I like to do business with people that are closer to me. I don't want to buy from a bakery that's 30 miles away if there's one close to me or close to the venue. So there are reasons to do things. And then you click on that individual company site, and I drilled into the Sight and Sound page, and you see an abbreviated page within the company page. And again, there's an intro. If you dig further, there will be photos. There will be all kinds of things about an individual company. It's a simple, logical way to navigate and see chunks of information that aren't so small that you need a microscope to see them.
Absolutely.
So,
and you can also put, as vendors can also put their videos, their photos, in addition to, obviously couple reviews.
Right. And I just put the page up that had the stars, which are the overall rating, but you can get specific reviews, not just from past brides and grooms and wedding couples, but you can get them now from professionals, from peers.
Yes.
And I think that's huge. A bride and groom deals with you once, and hopefully they have, as a professional, you have a great experience. And you, wedding couples that are out there looking at companies and looking at the individual ratings of a company, I will be, well, I'm always straightforward. Let me put it this way. When it's your wedding day, everything goes flying by. And you may miss some things that went right. You may miss some things that went wrong. And at the end of the day, hopefully you were happy. Wedding professionals work with each other week after week, month after month, see everything. So to me, it's a higher standard when a wedding professional who is a peer says, I like doing business with XYZ company because, and they give you some intelligent piece of information about why the company you're considering is a worthwhile choice. So I think that's good.
No, that's great. It's a great place to start. If you just get engaged, it's a great, Wedding Wire is one of the great places to start.
Sure.
Okay.
So they've got another app which essentially comes up as Let's Plan Your Wedding. And it's formatted a little differently, and some of this is, you can say it's redundant, but it's looking for different styles of how you search, whether your search, your brain is wired differently than the next person's. So they start with finding a venue. They've got a section on vendors. They have a specific section just on dresses and real wedding photos, which to me is aspirational and informational. And I went to an area I'm not as familiar, which is wedding dresses. And sure enough, I pulled up a section called Dress Finder. And they have filters how to find a dress, not so much by color or even style, but by body type, among other things. So you know what your body type is, and you can just do it visually and pull up garments that are more likely to fit you than somebody else. And I thought that was great. And then they've got designer galleries, and just a cool way of reformatting the searching for different things you might enjoy. People spend disproportionate amounts of time on different elements. Venues are a big one. Dresses, obviously, salons, catering, entertainment, photography. Those are probably the top 5.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the last one is, again, inspirational. It's called Wed Style. And this is like going through, well, it looks like a cross between Tinder and Instagram.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so you can go through different sections looking for inspiration on different photos of, whether it's attire or decor or whatever the case may be. And if you swipe right, it means thumbs up, and if you swipe left, it means you're throwing it under the bus.
Oh, wow!
And so they've got all kinds of photos. I looked at a few. So one of a wedding party where the bridesmaids were holding these huge sunflowers, and they were wearing pale yellow dresses. And I thought, that's not over the top style, but it's you see who likes it, and you start to develop a feel for it. And then you'll see on the screen a grid of a dozen different
I like
photos.
That.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Like it. It's easy. Swipe left, swipe right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to remember what you liked and didn't like. You can just go back to your history of things that you didn't throw out and things that you hung on to, and then you can share it with a bridesmaid.
Wow, that's a new one because I don't think I've ever even and that's all under the Wedding Wire brand.
Right. So they've
That's
got
great.
those 4 different ones, and again, you may or may not want to use all 4, or you may want to use all 4. You should download them, check them out, and by the way, they're free. So
It's
there
free.
you
That
have it.
sounds great. That's awesome.
So let's talk about blogs. Can we talk about
Yeah,
blogs?
we could talk about anything you want.
There-
So blog's different than an app?
Blog is simply a website that becomes live in the fact that it's diary form, meaning businesses and people post every day or every couple of days, and then they categorize their information by calendar. When was it posted? And then if the business is doing their job right, they'll also tag them with, dresses or bridal gowns or whatever the information is that's covered within that within that blog. And you can have all kinds of different things that you're interested in. But again, you're looking at so much information.
lot.
You don't want to have to just save every single blog address. You can, in an app called Feedly, you can create a list of your favorite blogs, whether it's Style Me Pretty or it's, another designer's blog or whatever the case may be. And every day you're going to get an update with examples of the most recent updates to all the blogs that you're fired up with.
So that can go for your photographer. You pick a photographer already. You can add him into
Sure.
him or her into Feedly as well.
And the danger is you can your brain might explode from too many ideas.
Yeah, I would
But
think
you
so.
have the ability to add as much as you want. You can then delete things that you find, they had one good post and it's not so interesting.
I love the fact that maybe in Feedly, once you hire your vendors, you can put all their blogs into this Feedly, right?
Well, and that's the preferred simple blog app, which is Feedly, which comes either free or a premium version. Free is probably fine, and every day it'll pop up
Great.
and show you what's new.
That's
And if you don't check it for 3 days, it'll show you the last 3 days of what's new, and you can delete things. You can mark them as read, or leave it as unread, and use it any way you want.
great. I love it.
Some people use it for everyday things, but it works really well for weddings. I think
Okay.
it'd be great.
I love it. I think it's a great idea. What else did you find for us?
Well, I found that the 2 most important sites generally are image based, and the number 1 as it relates to apps is Pinterest. Pinterest is amazing. They started out without a special section for weddings, and it soon became pretty obvious that they needed a special section for weddings.
I can imagine. I can't imagine the company you're not. I mean,
Well, again, they've upgraded and modified their navigation. So now, if you put wedding in their little search tree, you'll get nothing but weddings, and then you've got 10 other choices at the top of sort of the subset of weddings: ideas, dresses, decorations, planner, rings, photography, rustic, country, colors. Invitations, centerpieces, and then there's an arrow
Pinterest.
that you could just keep going. So some of those are concrete choices. Some of them are concepts. And, this is where you'll find a conglomeration of things, and then you'll see the examples, and then you can drill down to the specific listing or page of a company showing something that they've done. Those are helpful, particularly if they're in your neighborhood, but sometimes you want to look for inspiration, all over the country or all over the world.
absolutely. Because you could type in like Las Vegas weddings
Sure.
in Pinterest.
Absolutely, and that's the way to do things. Is you want to look for a specific thing where you're getting married or a specific style. You may be getting married in Oshkosh, but want something that's Southern style, for example. So you can search all over the place.
And Andy, Pinterest is both a website and it's also an app form. It's also in app form.
Yes, my friend, the lovely Jessica, has a Pinterest page with, I believe, over 90,000 pins.
Holy cow.
And She has
Wow.
she does it for
Wow.
just because she's interested in design of all kinds, and it's amazing what you can do with lack of sleep. But what's amazing is how much interesting stuff she has on there. It's not just a bunch of junk. So you can go to your heart's content. I have a page that I call Weddings a Go-Go, and I noticed I have a cake. I think it's a cake topper that is Weddings for Dummies. Is that?
Oh yeah, you
I
do.
mean, there are all kinds of crazy things that you can find. Books, decor. I have an ad for or an image for same-sex wedding that was part of a presentation I gave. There are all kinds of things that you can do, and therefore, as a wedding couple, there are all kinds of things to feed your brain with.
As a wedding couple, do you think it's cool to share your Pinterest board with your vendors?
I do, but I think it's better to do it privately. And one of the things you can do on Pinterest is you can set up a password-protected board with limited access to certain people. And you don't want to walk into a bridal salon with 78 different bridal gowns. They'll throw you out, or they should.
That's right. It's every dress in the store.
No,
Go!
I remember one particular wedding planner that a bride came in with something from Martha Stewart, and she said the client said they had $20,000 to spend, and my friend said, well, then you want to put that tearaway from the Martha Stewart magazine away. So it's important, particularly if you don't know what things cost, to try to help get it narrowed down and let the business that you're working with or thinking about working with narrow it down to some numbers that you can afford. You shouldn't be surprised or disappointed. But having private boards on Pinterest with your bridesmaids, with your mom, with your maid of honor, or with specific vendors is a good way to use it.
Great. I would think that mostly design people. That'd be great for your design, your floral or whoever your design, and your wedding planner.
Well, they get a sense of your taste,
Yeah.
just like when you send in music to a DJ.
band.
But I think people know more about their own music than they do about
They do.
decor.
Yeah, they do.
And the overall.
They do. What else did you find for us?
I found some folks I know called idoappointments.com, and they have a service that will help connect you with appointments for wedding professionals in your area. So they take some of the, not the guesswork, but the, how do I want to say this? I want to say it well. They take some of the bureaucracy out of setting the appointments. So they'll set appointments, make appointments, qualify the kind of vendor you're looking for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that whether that's an in-person one or by phone or by video, they'll set you up for that.
So it's not a Google Calendar thing, like, oh, I got to input my meeting with Sight and Sound, and
No, this is designed specifically for wedding planning between the wedding couple and potential wedding vendors.
nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a good one. And
Great. I do appointments.
idoappointments.com.
And again, we're going to have these listed for you. We'll have the slides up online as well.
One of the ones that Jodi sent my way is called OneNote, and it's a Microsoft app, and it's organization, lists, photos, notes, organized in a digital notebook. It is a couple of dollars. No, it's not a couple of dollars. It's free, but it's not designed specifically for weddings. You should look at it, see if it suits your purposes, but it's not pre-populated with wedding-oriented categories and that sort of thing.
Got it.
So
But you can do that yourself.
you can, and this depends on your aptitude and your interest and what you want to do.
Got it. Got it.
So that's a quickie. Wedding Happy. That's sort of an interesting name.
Wedding happy.
Wedding Happy.
Okay. See, yep. Wedding happy.
It's a wedding planner, and it is, how shall I say, a very simple, no frills wedding planning organization piece of software and application form. It can do a lot of things. It's just simple. So I'm neither for it or against it. I just think it's it's simpler than a lot of the other things. There's nothing wrong with simple.
So it's just a no-brainer for
I
a
think
lot of our people.
it's
It just organizes you. Is that what it is?
It's just an organizer, but
Okay.
it's not as complex or complete as some of the other things that you may come across.
Do some of these apps allow you to cut and paste from your emails and maybe drop things into the organizer? Like,
Yes, but it's still, and I think this goes back to some of my initial advice, which is you don't want to put too many things in your world that aren't wedding organized. The less inputting you have to do, the more things are complete from the start. Ultimately, you're going to save more time, and that's what the goal should be here, is to operate easily. I came across one that you had suggested, which I thought was pretty well done. We think about wedding invitations, but we don't think of everything else that goes along. This operation called Minted does a number of things: wedding websites, wedding invitations, wedding announcements, save the dates, shower and party invitations, day of accessories, including table numbers, menus, place cards. And these are all things you can create online. They can be printed wherever and shipped to you. And that's a fine thing. I would say that the big mistake that people make when they do their own wedding invitations is they fail to properly edit.
Yes.
And suddenly you get the invitations back from the printer, and they don't have the RSVP phone number or some such thing. So you can never have enough sets of eyes looking at invitations or anything else in this genre of idea, printed anything, because once you print it, it's either right or it's wrong or it's incomplete, and you need to have 2 or 3 people looking over your shoulder.
I remember signing off. I remember back in the old days with fax machines, how we had to sign off on our wedding invitation to make sure that it was correct, because even the woman who did our invitation for us, she wasn't going to take responsibility even, you know what I'm saying? Like, she just had to sign off on the paper.
A printer's job is to print. It is not to be a copywriter. So if they catch something, good for them. But that's not their job, and it's not their fault.
Exactly.
So be careful. If you want to know a little more about etiquette and how things should be phrased, you're not going to get much of that help online. You're going to be getting it from an actual
person.
A person who does invitations out of a retail store.
Absolutely.
So some things look easy online, but they're not necessarily as simple as they look.
Exactly.
But an app like this will be better than most. Next one I have is iWedding Deluxe.
iWedding Deluxe.
There must be an echo in here.
It's like Great Karnak, right?
Yes, exactly.
iWedding Deluxe.
That's right.
What do we have?
Well, it's an iPhone app, which struck me as a little bit odd because there are other phones these days. And this does a number of things, but it is not a sophisticated not device, program, but it is another wedding planning app. And again, it's free or near free. It does include guest lists, seating plans, budget planning, notes, photos, vendor details, wedding guides, inspiration, and much, much more. So you will hear that every program you look at, every app does a lot of the same stuff. You've got to try it and play with it and see if it really does everything you need it to do. You may never find something that does everything you want done the way you want it, but you should be looking for, 90% or better. And if you get that, then, you're pretty good shape.
You got a winner.
Yeah, and so I've got a couple more under my belt here. This one in proper British is Appy Couple.
The Appy Couple.
Yeah. I don't know who named this, but,
That's cute.
Yeah, and it's spelled APPY.
Aw.
Yeah, and this does essentially 2 things. It seems to be a nice program for designing a website for your wedding.
Nice.
And again, I believe in those, not just for directions, but how did you meet each other, and pictures from way back when to now, and all of those sorts of things. And then it's also a planning function, and the planning function is broken down nicely on the website. It says wedding timeline, wedding budget manager, travel and destinations, event decor style, registry guide, gifting. It's a great great word. Etiquette and nifty checklists.
Nifty
Nifty.
checklist. Wow.
Nifty. How old was the person that wrote that? Nifty checklist.
Nifty. I don't even think a young bride would even know what nifty means.
Well, but in all seriousness, I don't want to.
No, it seems like a very. I love that. I love you're showing me, like I'm seeing, and our couples will see this online. But I love the fact that you could even create, like you said, create your own like website from it.
Well, and that's great, and that's what they start with, and then you go into your planning phase from there. Because the first thing you do is get engaged, and now let's tell the world, and let's have a website. I like some of the phrasing, like on the registry guide. A curated selection of timeless classics and indulgences to help you get started, including pointers and advice on registry etiquette. I mean, my big choice in Macy's, doing registry, was trying to convince my now ex-wife that we needed a popcorn popper that mounted underneath the cabinets. She said, nobody's going to get you that. And sure enough, we wound up with 2.
Oh, nice.
They will perhaps have more creative ideas, but, the idea of curation is that they have come across many things over time and are putting the best selections or groupings of different suggested registry items.
I would think that they would want to, like this Appy Couple app would want you to stay with them. You're gonna create this website, using their software, and then they want to keep you there. So hence the other things.
And that's the thing with all of these is they want to, if they're trying to be all inclusive or near all inclusive, they want you to stay within their ecosystem. Again, certain they're earning money by certain advertising, and to the degree that you stay within it, they're going to be a more profitable enterprise. Mm-hmm. So now I have the Jodi Harris Weddings Done Right special.
Pick of the litter.
This is a pick of the litter or pick of the week.
Pick of the week.
You're either going to be great with this or you're going to annoy your disc jockey.
Usually
completely.
They annoy the disc jockey.
And it's an iTunes iOS app for...
Well, actually now it's on Android.
Well, there you have it.
There you go.
So they've gone from iPhone to Android. They've gone to the dark side.
They have.
And it's called Fun Wedding. Another creative title. And it's all about... Well, let me read this because it's a good description. So you want a fun and memorable wedding reception. Ensure your guests have the time of their life with incredible music that keeps the dance floor packed. Not your typical boring music list. Fun Wedding gives you access to nearly 24 unique music charts compiled from millions of actual song requests made through the DJ Intelligence format, and Jodi and I know DJ Intelligence. They serve the DJ entertainment industry. And Jodi walked into the coffee shop with this on her phone, and she was raving about
Love it.
Okay.
Love
I'm
it.
gonna
My
turn the
DJs
tables.
love it.
Yeah.
We love it as
Why?
DJs.
I'm glad you love it. Why do you love it?
We love it so much because if a client comes up to you, let's say you're in a design session and your client wants to know, wow, I just can't pick the right father-daughter dance for our wedding. Well, guess what? You open up the Fun Wedding app. There's a list of the top father-daughter dance songs. There's a list of the top mother-son dance songs. There's a list of cake cutting songs. There's a list of bouquet songs, garter songs, grand entrance songs, first dance songs. That's just one of them. But let's just say you want to know, we're in the 2010s decade. That's what they're calling this thing, the 10s. You want to know what the most popular songs are right now in the 2010 decade. You just open up that list on the Fun Wedding app, and it will show you the top 100. Not only that, but let's just say...
But yet there's more?
There's more. The intelligence people, you owe me. There's more. What if you want to know what the most requested party songs of the year were last year? Would you like to know what the most requested...
I'd like to know that.
Yeah, go on to your iPhone and you just dial it in. Here you go. I can tell you what the song is because I know it. It's Uptown Funk. Uptown Funk was the number one most requested song.
And this is based on what
This
data?
is based on the data from DJ Intelligence. There we go. We got our Fun Wedding app right there. You open it up. Again, you'll see. I recommend this to all our couples. Matter of fact, the company newsletter just went out, and I told event professionals that they all need to have this, because if you are sitting down with your client and they need help with a song, at least you can tell them,
Yeah, you have an instant reference guide without having to store everything in your brain.
Yeah, absolutely. And trust me, what I tell you, Andy, most requested.
Very good.
Right there, Uptown Funk. And if you want to know what's trending right now, what are DJs at parties in 2016 playing right now, Andy, they have a trending button right there. Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nay Nay is the number one trending song right now.
What's the third one?
Shut Up and Dance.
Okay.
Shut Up and Dance. And I Can't Feel My Face is number 2.
I'm sorry to hear that.
There you go.
All right, so
fun wedding, guys. Everybody should not only should you have it as a couple, but you should also have it if you're an event
just in life.
And I think event professionals listening to this show need to have it.
Sure.
I think it should be.
Why not?
It should be in your toolbox, as they say.
Okay, I've got one more.
Okay, give it to me.
Thing. Well, it's not something that you as the wedding couple will buy or use as an app to actively plan your wedding, but you should be familiar with applications such as Skype.
I was just going to say that.
Bride Live, FaceTime. I use something called Zoom, and you should be looking for wedding professionals that use these kinds of programs to communicate with one or more people who may be in different cities. I mean, we're in Las Vegas, and we get about 60 to 70%, maybe more than that, destination weddings. I think it's more like 80%.
Yeah.
But even if you're in, Buffalo, New York, 40% of the weddings is the average in cities around the United States that are destination weddings. Maybe people have been at college elsewhere, started their careers elsewhere, but they come back home to have their wedding. And that way you can deal face to face and get a sense of the wedding professionals, and they can show you visuals of their venue. They can show you 360-degree pictures. They can navigate things and really demonstrate what is what, and give you the explanation and do it in real time in multiple time zones. I think any of those is a great tool, and the advice on it is, please don't download the software to look at and be part of that conference call 5 minutes before the conference call. Download it, make sure it works properly. Most things are available in Windows and Mac, and you just have to find out what's necessary. Your proposed wedding professional that wants to do business with you will send you an invitation to a meeting. You sign in, you download your software, and then show up online at the appropriate time. And by the end of your half hour or hour discussion or whatever it is, you feel like you know that person.
It's truly great.
And it's not like tasting the cake. It's not like smelling the flowers, but you can do a heck of a lot of decision making in advance at great distances if somebody's got the right tools to show you and allow you to become more comfortable.
Awesome. Great advice. This is great. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Andy, for all this. I'm overwhelmed because I feel like one of the brides right now. I mean, every app that we brought to them today, there's just something for everybody.
And think about this. I don't think there are particularly any wrong answers in everything we floated out there. Different things for different people. You check them out and pick what seems to work for you. The only mistake you can make is trying to use too many. That's pretty much it.
And I think that's a great takeaway. I think that's the great takeaway. Andy, how does one reach you? Are you on? Of course you are. Duh.
Of course I am.
Of course.
AndyEbon.com is where you can find me.
Is that the easiest way? Do you prefer Twitter?
No.
Okay.
No, AndyEbon.com. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Facebook, and I'm under Andy Ebon, so that's always pretty easy.
Okay.
And I don't have 17 different titles for my presence.
There you go. AndyEbon.com. Well, brides and grooms, wedding couples, I hope you guys enjoyed this special app episode of Weddings Done Right, the how-to for the I Do. I am Jodi Harris. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, I am Jodi Harris on Twitter. And I want to thank you guys for listening. Please tell a friend, rate our show, write a review about our show, help those algorithms that are out there floating around the podcast.
We'll have another show and define algorithm.
There you go. I'll put that on the website.
Was that designed by Al Gore?
Al Gore. with that, I am Jodi Harris, and this is Andy Ebon, and we're telling you to make it fantastic.
Absolutely. Make it fantastic.